Good afternoon and welcome to NYFP. In mid-afternoon trade on this Thursday, the major U.S. stock averages remain stuck deep in the red. Now I'm joined by Kenneth Polcari of ICAP Equities. Kenny, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, here we are at noon and the major stock averages are deep in the red. Europe has closed for today, but going forward into tomorrow's session, what do you think we'll see?
Well, you really have to figure out how the day is going to end today, right? We've tested 1120, which is key technically for the S&P. We started it right this morning. It actually felt like we were going to break through. We did not. That's a positive sign. We've bounced off it 2 or 3 times today, and it's really going to depend. Tomorrow's action is going to depend on how we really end today. Do we end on the lows of the day? Do we end kind of with pressure on the market? Or will they, in fact, try to rally this market as the day progresses? It's yet to be seen. Europe just closed. We saw it closed on the lows of the day, Europe. It's taken a little bit of the pressure off here, but let's just see a lot. We still got another 4 hours of trading, and a lot can happen.
Well, it's interesting because the U.S. market started selling off following the Fed announcement, and we did get the Operation Twist as expected. But why do you think we saw that sell-off?
Well, I have to tell you, I think Operation Twist was just what the market expected. Maybe not necessarily what they wanted, but it's been well telegraphed, right? They talked about it for a month. Everyone really knew QE3 wasn't going to happen. I think what really caused a concern after the fact was once people started analyzing Ben Bernanke's speech and his discussion, his terminology, and what he said about really being concerned about this global slowdown, that is a real concern to him. It's clearly a concern to the marketplace. And listen, underneath all this, we're still simmering Europe, right? The Greece situation has not gone away. I quite honestly believe that the market and the central banks around the world are really preparing for an organized Greek restructuring. They certainly don't want it to go belly up, but an organized restructuring, I think, is something that has to seriously be considered. And I think the market's kind of telling you that.
Well, going forward, now that we know what the fundamental concerns are over in Europe as well as here in the U.S., how have you worked this into your strategy for the rest of the quarter?
Well, you have to be, in a couple of weeks, we're going to starting to get earnings announcements, right? So the first couple of weeks in October, and the focus will shift from kind of the macro data, and it will even shift away from Europe a little bit, and investors will start to concentrate on what individual U.S. company reports are going to be, and quite honestly, not even so much what they reported, but what their guidance is going to be going out. What are the next six months going to look like in terms of company forecasts? And so the focus will shift to that underneath. So then you have to wait for that to happen. I think what you're going to hear is that they're going to be temperate in their guidance, and I think the market's going to end up in this very tight trading range. By the end of the year, I fully don't expect to see that the market's going to rally very strongly, but nor do I think it's going to collapse.
Okay, Kenny, last but not least for today's interview, I do want to ask you this one question. Now, we're seeing the dollar soar against most of the majors today with the exception of the yen, and we're seeing commodities decline. But given that gold prices have pulled back, is this a good time to buy?
I think gold actually has a little bit lower to go because I think gold had gotten way overdone. I think it's the dollar trade is because it's a safe haven asset. I think commodities as a group are going to come in because this Operation Twist is not going to be like QE2 where it supports asset prices and commodity prices. So I think you're going to see a pullback in commodities. I think gold has a little bit further to go. A target you can't ask because it's not right to look at. But I just think that commodities are going to come in, and certainly gold is going to get cheaper than it is.
Okay, Kenny, well, thank you so much for weighing in on all these topics.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.